in case he wants to. Sorry, guys, it took so long.
Oh, no, not at all.
What's going on, PJ?
Oh, Tommy, what's up? I mean, I didn't even realize it. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
You're like omnipresent, man. You're all over the place.
I'm always sneaking around.
I'm afraid to open the fridge and see you in the fridge, man.
There we go. That's a little better.
I have my people everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hey, Scotty, you want to join us? Or you? I know.
I think he's still there.
Where's my?
I think.
Okay. Oh, let me see.
There we go. I had the page open, so.
Okay. Why am I not seeing? Oh, there it is. Okay. Got it. So George. I mean George.
Jack.
What should we call you, Jack or George?
Just call me Jack.
Okay.
I'm trying to get them kind of melded together. That's why I rebranded the channel with a different icon, so that they look similar. And it seemed to help. I mean, I shot up to 78 today, so I'm doing really good. I mean, I went from 20 on the 20th of January to now I've got 78 subs. So
awesome.
It's because my wife's like, if you're going to do this YouTube thing, you got to do it. So I committed to doing at least a live stream or a video a day. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm a hardware tech. I'm not really into the video stuff yet. So I'm still learning Adobe and all that stuff. And I use Adobe because I get a super discount on it through work. So,
I wanted to do stuff on. I wanted to do it on your channel because I thought that you're gonna need to do stuff on your channel instead of being a guest on somebody's channel. So
yeah, I think I've only got 40 hours of watch time so far, but some of my videos go a little long, so it's one of those things. If you don't get it in at the right time, if it's too long, if it's that kind of thing. So
you'll find the right formula.
Yeah, and the creative writing series I'm doing is almost like a creative writing class. I'm basically writing a story, but I'm going through every step of my process as I do it, so that people understand. Because that's what I didn't have. You can go to school and you go to creative writing classes, but you never really talk to people that have done it, that have figured out their process, and everybody's a little different. I really wish that we could go back to the old days where writers like Tolkien and Robert Howard and things, they mentored other writers, and we just don't have that anymore. Heck, we don't even have magazines to submit short stories to anymore. So, you either have to figure out a new way to get your work out there for people to understand and know you before you can get published, or you just get really, really lucky. So that's why I decided, I'm like, I can take that written format and transfer it into a video format. My wife likes to draw, so I'm like, let's get you the tools you need to learn, and she's still learning them. But it's a long process, and I figure a lot of people take about a year to get really established on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Well, Jack, I mean, I could speak from my own perspective. I haven't, as for myself, for my own personal channel, I only started back in, I want to say it was, let me see, January, February, April. I want to say it was like the end of April, beginning of March
Right.
is when I started. And I was making pretty long videos when I first started off, and I couldn't get anybody to follow me at all.
Right.
And I actually got lucky because I became like pretty tight with John Talks. I mean, I wouldn't say we're the
Right.
greatest of friends, but John Talks trusts me, and he's had me a moderator on his channel for even God knows how long now. And
Right.
that's how I kind of got my start, and I started to get a little bit noticed. And I was still doing really long videos, and I just wasn't getting the watch time, and I wasn't getting the people coming in as I was kind of hoping I would, just to be able to share with. And I noticed
Right.
ever since I took it down to a shorter format for all my videos, I'm actually getting a lot more views, and I'm getting a lot more people coming in to check it out. So, I mean, I don't know if that will help you at all.
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to do lately. If you look at some of my later videos, especially like the writing series, I cut it off at 20 minutes. I had more to say, but I'm like, I can put that in the next episode. And I do it on the fly. I don't go back. I don't record my audio and then go back and record my video, because the people that really influence me the most, they just get on and do their thing. They don't spend a lot of time editing. They're just trying to get the information out there. They're trying to be personable. And I got lucky because I was on that. I watched the High Council ever since The Last Jedi came out. I was really, I was really upset. Doctor Who started going that way. We didn't really have Trek, and those were the three big ones: Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who. Because when I was growing up, that's all I had. I had PBS, and I had like one other UHF station, because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. And I got to see reruns of TOS, and they would do like the BBC does and just play The Next Generation over and over and over again, and DS9. And that's what I grew up on. So, and then the first movie I ever saw that I remember seeing that my parents actually took me to was Star Wars. I was 3. And George Lucas had this huge effect on me. And
Same for me, Jack.
Yeah.
That was the first film I was for, and I the first one I remember is Star Wars. Yeah.
Hey, Kathia. I hope I pronounced your name right. Yeah.
ATT.
And then I just evolved that way. I was bored in school, so even at like 3rd, 4th grade, when you had to write your spelling words in a sentence, I would write each one in a sentence, but the sentences combined a story. And I had a teacher's like, "You're going to be a writer," and she kind of pushed me that way. And I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life that took me off of that path. I went to school for it, but I was also in the military at the time. And then I got married and had kids.
What branch? What branch?
I was in the Air Force, and it was right near the end of Desert Storm, Desert Shield when I entered. But that gave me my technology background, and I used that to make a living. And I wrote a full-length novel about 20 years ago, but then I had a friend that I let help me with it, and we were just going to rewrite it and co-do it. And he got really artsy on me, and I dropped it because I knew it so well. I've been working on it for so long that I couldn't objectively edit it because my brain filled in the gaps. So I knew it too well. So now I'm at that point where I've almost forgotten it, so I can go back and redo it. And then I'm working on another novel at the same time. Stephen King was a huge influence on me. And if it wasn't for my mother, I would have never known about Doctor Who. She was a big Whovian back in the old days. And she would go and get bootleg VHSs of Doctor Who, the Tom Baker series. and I fell in love with that. So science fiction and fantasy has been, you know, instrumental in my life. And then I tend to write more thriller and horror stuff. That's my better work. I love fantasy and science fiction, but my better work tends to go in the other direction. So you know, it's this channel is more about me getting my work out, you know, seeing it, people enjoy it, and getting feedback. Because when you're in a bubble, you don't get criticism, or you know, you get the criticism from friends and family that you can't really trust. You know, it's kind of the what I call the American Idol syndrome. Every one of those people that go up there and make a fool of themselves had family members telling them how great they were, right? So they have good intentions, but you really need honest opinion. Unfortunately, I'm on my third marriage, and I finally found somebody that's very encouraging, but at the same time will go, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And, you know, it's really building me up. And of course, doing the channel and putting a video out, even if it's me playing a game, I pick games that have stories, right? Even if it's a shooter, I play Destiny 2, there's heavy story in the background. Star Wars The Old Republic, heavy story. So that's what my channel is about. I'm not interested in I mean, I dislike what's going on with our media. And the only time I argue with people about it is if they argue back. Like, I'll make a comment and I'm like, they'll start arguing with me, and I'm like, look, if you don't like my comment, why bother, right? So I defend myself and I try to explain, and you know, it never works. You know, nobody ever. I did last night have a conversation with somebody about the race swapping of Black Canary in the movie coming up, and I said, you know, as a society, we have a fundamental misunderstanding of racism. What people call racism is not racism. I don't care about the color of people's skin. The problem people have is that they don't understand each other's culture. And it's more culturalism than it is racism, right? And
well, you know, I was going to say, I want to add on to that. I don't always think that it's just that people don't understand the culture. I think it's that people that have a certain culture think that they're the only ones that could be right about their culture, and they're the only ones that can understand their culture. Right.
And it's about perspective, man. If you love Star Trek Discovery, I wish I could. You know, I really wish I could. And I thought I had promise in the first couple of episodes, right? And I love the actors; they're great actors. And
I don't think the casting's bad. It's not the casting. It's
right.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's why they're all. You know, I dislike certain characters because I understand how you're supposed to create a character. A character should be as realistic as they possibly can. Now, I don't write plot-driven stories. I write character-driven stories. And I write in the style of Stephen King. He wrote The Stand this way. He wrote Salem's Lot this way. Most of his best novels are written where he creates the characters as realistic as he possibly can. And then he puts them in a situation. And he says, I expect them to go to X, but they might not. And that really drives the story, and that's why they're so good.
Yeah, actually, you said something really interesting there, that he builds them up as realistic as possible, and then he puts them into a situation. That's yeah. And you have to understand psychology as a little bit, because you put yourself inside those characters, right? Parts of your own personality. Hi, Teresa.
Hey, Teresa. It's good to see you.
Teresa Martin.
Yeah, we're both Patreons over on Ryan Kennel's channel. But that's the thing, is that growing up, I people watched a lot, and that blends into it. And then You know, I've worked in landscaping companies. I've worked as a tech. My father was a roofer, and I grew up, you know, toting shingles up a ladder. You know, I've cut wood. I've done a lot of different things, and that I draw upon that. Now, I said I made choices, and I have to live with those choices. That's why I'm not a published novelist right now. But if I hadn't made the choices I made, I wouldn't have the life experience now to put into those. And a lot of people, like a young man made a comment on one of my creative writing videos that was, I wish somebody had told me this stuff a long time ago. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to give people tools, show them my writing, and show them, like, you know, you can do it. All you have to do is read a lot and write a lot.
That's a good point. Yeah, you have to read other people's stuff and have a creative attitude. And so where do you see, like, what's an ultimate project for you then, Jack?
So on the horizon, I watch the Comics Gate streams a lot. Those guys are so creative, and they're doing what I'm doing. They're taking it into their own hands and not, you know, relying on corporate America or some company, faceless corporation, to give them the nod. And I think that's a part of the problem with our media now, is that corporations just don't have a heart. Boards of directors can't collectively have a heart. And that's part of what everything is: marketing and analysis and statistics. Where, for example, old school Star Trek, you know, the OT, the original Star Wars, all of this stuff had heart because they were the creators' projects that were driven. And now that everything's becoming corporatized, that's why they want to remake everything. They want to tap back into what made it special in the first place, but they can't because they don't have the heart to do it.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's not just heart alone. I think it's the passion and the drive to actually create those, you know, movies and shows that actually what eventually drove them to success, more so than just the heart. I mean, yeah, the heart is there, but I mean, it's that passion. It's that raw emotion and passion and imagination that they all had that is really just lacking in today's society.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that where, you know, if I get started, like I've been going and doing a video or a stream every day, right? Sometimes two. And it's because when I get creative, if I stop, like I stop for a week, it won't get done for 6 months, right? So that's the other thing, is that, and I know a lot of writers, I mean, it's 90% surfing the internet and 10% writing in a writing day, because especially with a novel or a story, and the way I write with character-driven stories is, if you don't capitalize on the momentum, it's just going to fall flat. And I just, man, it's all about numbers and money. And you're right. If there's not heart and passion in there, then it's just not going to work out, you know?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly, Katya. A writer has to know a lot of different things. And I come across as a know-it-all a lot. My wife will say that, and she's like, you got to be careful when you're doing these instructional videos, because when you're telling people how to do something, you tend to sound like you're talking down to them. And that's why I made that video this morning. I'm like, listen, I need your comments. I need you to criticize me. I'm not like some of the people that you're going to see on Twitter who are going to attack you just because you don't like something that I do. I need that. I need somebody to go, oh, buddy, you need to rein it in a little bit, right? So it's about perspective, really. you know, and I realize that, you know, the majority of the Twitter audience is younger people that haven't had that life experience, haven't been knocked down a few times.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Another thing that I could point out about a lot of these older producers, movie directors, and everything like that. If they weren't sure about the project they were working on, that they would always bounce it off other people. They wouldn't just assume that their idea was going to be the be all end all, and that they were going to be right and it was going to be perfect every single time. I mean, even George Lucas took it and he decided that he couldn't handle all of it all on his own, directing, writing, you know what I mean, and working with other people. He had to bring more people in to do directing and help him out so he could bounce ideas off of them. But you got these guys today like J.J. Abrams, like he thinks that he could do no wrong and that he's going to make the greatest movie of all times ever, every single time. And that's just not the case, not even in the least.
Yeah, and that's where I think we failed as a society. And I made the same mistake with my kid, is that we told them that they could do anything, but we didn't give them the tools to do that, right? We just told them that they should assume that they're gonna make it. And so people, they don't use those tools. They don't have them. And and when they fail, they're not prepared to fail, right? So they make excuses. You know, JJ had such a great opportunity, and going back to your point where they bounced ideas off of things and had people to rein them in and give them that criticism. George Lucas did that with the first trilogy, but you know why the second trilogy wasn't as good is because everybody said yes to him at that point, right? So you know, I mean, I heard stories about people that were like, yes, George, and then talking about him after, you know, he was gone, going, this guy's going crazy. What are we doing? Everything's CGI. Well, you know, if you're too rigid and you're not going to be able to accept that criticism, then there's not a point in keep going, right? But yeah, I'm working on a urban fantasy, kind of in the style of, I don't know if you know about them, but Dresden Files and the Iron Druid series. It's basically fantasy set in our current real world, right? Like there's another world underneath that nobody cares to acknowledge. Like there are vampires and werewolves and things like that. And then the older novel is a high fantasy, kind of my ode to Lord of the Rings, kind of like the Dark Tower series is King's ode to Lord of the Rings. And then my urban fantasy, that first chapter, I'm like, you know what? This story would make a really good comic. So I was talking to Mandy, and she recommended an artist, and he took my first chapter, and he's going to get me some sketches, and we may make a comic out of the first chapter. So it's all about, you know, building that following and then self-publishing to an audience that I can get them a quality product, right, at the lowest possible price, not so I can make money off of that novel, but so that my name can get out there, so that I can get the exposure and share my work with even more people.
You said you connected with George Peter Gatsis, Jack?
Well, not him, but Vic King Art. And I'm waiting on he's I think he's told me he's gone through a couple of iterations of what he's trying to accomplish with sketches of the characters. And you know, I'm giving him all the time in the world because, you know, I can write anytime and the chapter's already done, right? I can convert that into a script. But I don't understand the visual art. I can write, I can give you visuals with my words, but I can't make myself create something on paper, for lack of a better word, that these guys can. These guys are tremendous artists, and I know that, you know, no matter how what your creative outlet is, there's a lot of impediments in that. So I try to be patient with people. But yeah, those are the things on the horizon, and just enjoying this community, because it's such a great community, whether you're Fandom Menace or not Fandom Menace or whatever. I think a lot of the arguments between the non Fandom Menace and the Fandom Menace are more arguments of degree, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all have issues with these IPs. We all love these IPs. And, people on the Fandom Menace side, Jeremy in particular, are very, very vocal, much more vocal. And, and then people on the, on like, for example, the Great Council, and they're less vocal and less angry, but we all are coming from the same place, right? So I think that some of these attacks are just insane, because we agree on the basic premise. We love these IPs. These are our myths. These are, I say all the time that I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked in the 80s, right? And they worked an hour and a half away. And back then that was a long way for somebody to drive. I would get home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and these stories, Babylon 5, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Star Wars, the EU novels, right? Oh, the ambassador's here. Let me add him real quick.
Hey, Ambassador.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing just fine. Afternoon, gentlemen. Tommy, Jack, or George, whichever you prefer. Yeah. George, well, okay.
That's the thing. I did that because I was fortunate enough. I was watching the High Council every Tuesday, just regular, because these people agree with me, right? They didn't like The Last Jedi either, and they were seeing what was happening. Mm-hmm. And, something came out, and Jeremy said, George is the man. He's the one that created this, and he was right all along. And, and he said, George Big Dick Lucas, and somebody needs to make that account. So I did. Mm-hmm. And he asked me today on his stream, why I misspelled it. I misspelled it because I had a misunderstanding of YouTube, and I didn't want to get in trouble for using his name that way. Right. So I swapped the letters. Mm-hmm. And in order to keep it consistent, I made the Twitter account the same way. And then that Twitter account got like 120 followers overnight. So I couldn't just dump it.
I think I followed you too. Actually, I remember that.
Yeah. And I was having
can I say before I forget, Jack, that the ambassador has a stream tonight at, what is it? What's the time, ambassador?
8:30 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody go and take a look at that. I'm
we're
amazed.
actually
go ahead.
We're actually going to be discussing the Dune universe, the movies,
cool.
the mini series. We might get into the books a little bit and everything. It might just kind of blend all together. But yeah, we're going to be. Somebody had actually suggested it on my live stream last week when we were talking about fantasy movies of the 1980s, and I was like, I forget who brought up in the chat and everything about doing Dune, and I was like, you know what? That doesn't sound like a half bad idea, because I like the Dune movies. I like the miniseries that Sci-Fi did. So, I was like, okay, we're going to do Dune.
And I love that movie, even though it wasn't really, they had to take it and chop it up. But, that was my first experience with Dune. Mm-hmm. And it led me into the books.
Yeah, Kathy had brought it up. I think Script Doctor and Adega, and I think Stone Loki are going to be joining me. But George, if you want to be on the panel as well, I've got room, or I will make room. We might swap out. So I'm following up right after PJ's or Oval Nature, excuse me, whichever way you want me to call you.
I don't care. You can call me PJ.
Okay, I'll be following up after PJ's interview with the guy that played Martok.
JG Hertzler, yeah.
JG,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ambassador, I have to stay on a little bit after we get off with him. So if I'm a little late, but I'll be there. Okay.
No, that's fine. That's
But if you're full, I'll just be in the audience.
I've got,
PJ,
like I said, I've
go
got
ahead.
4. I think we've got 3 or 4 confirmed panelists. But PJ, if you want to be on, if you want to talk Dune, I'll include you. Count on it.
I would love to talk Dune. I just don't remember enough about it.
Well, it's easy to pick up on and everything, and you can just kind of follow along with me because I've seen the movie. I remember the movie fairly well. I remember the miniseries. I read a lot of the prequel books that Herbert's son and Kevin J. Anderson did. I didn't read a whole lot of the original series, but I read House Atreides, House Harkonnen, House Carino. I read the stuff about the Machine War, the Butlerian Jihad. I read that stuff primarily, but I know enough and everything. And I've got enough other people that have a good head knowledge of the lore and everything that we can have a good discussion. So even if you can't completely keep up, PJ, you are still welcome.
Thank you. Are you going to be talking about the new Dune?
Maybe a little. I know the cast. I've heard who's doing it, but as far as any other details, there are other channels that have covered it. That's more their niche and everything. I cover more of the retro stuff, which I think most everybody knows at this point. But yeah, we might mingle in just a little bit. I don't want to spoil it, well, because obviously I don't know a whole lot about it. I know Denis Villeneuve is directing it. I think he wrote it or co-wrote. I know that they have split the first book up into 2 movies. I know the cast. I know some of the actors. Well, I don't know the actors personally, but I know of them. And I'm honestly very excited and everything. This is one movie that I am really excited for 2020. So I'm hoping, from what I have heard, and this isn't going into anything that I'm going to be talking about tonight, because like I said, we're talking about the old stuff more so than the new stuff. We will be, I think what we're going to get out of Denis Villeneuve is going to be something that is much more true to Herbert's vision than what we've gotten previously. Not to say that the others haven't made a good shot at taking a good shot at it, but I don't think that they've honestly gotten as close as I think Denis Villeneuve is getting to with his adaptation. So, and I'm hoping it really takes off, because I would love to see them at least do the original run of books, Dune through Chapter House, at least. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping it is well enough received that Warner Brothers is incentivized enough to say, okay, we're going to put more money, and we're going to do at least 2 or 3 of the other books. At least if they do through Leto the Second storyline, I think, and his goes all the way through God Emperor, and then I think he dies or something. So, or something along those lines.
My wife is actually watching in the other room. She just got home from work.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, we just got home and everything ourselves a little while ago. So,
yeah, I couldn't do this without her. I mean, she's the one who encourages me. The first 2 marriages I had, I was married to people who are like, it's a pipe dream. You're never going to do it. You need to give it up. And you hear that for years and years. As a creative, you just can't work yourself that way.
Well, and to give you a little bit about my backstory, I think I've shared with PJ a little bit. My wife for the last couple of years has been like, honey, why don't you start a channel? Talk about stuff that you like. And I was like, it wasn't the fact that I was hesitant or I didn't think I would get an audience. I was just so busy with everything else, because I'm actually a master's student. I'm currently, I'm about to become a member of the United Methodist Church, and I'm going to work towards becoming licensed and ordained as a United Methodist pastor. And along with working and my classwork and everything else that's going on, I was like, do I have the time to do this? And she's like, make the time. Yep. I was like, yeah.
I didn't know. That's cool. I didn't know you were becoming a pastor. That's awesome, Besser.
Yeah.
Well, for the I've mentioned this off and on. I know most everybody by now knows I am a devout Protestant Christian, but for the last 6 years, I had worked on a bachelor's of Christian studies. It covers Christian theology. It covers all sorts of stuff like that. And I'm currently working on what they call a Master's of Divinity, which is obviously the master's equivalent of that field of study, where you go much more in depth into study of ancient languages, in particular biblical Hebrew and biblical Greek. You go into a lot more in depth in church history, Christian doctrine, theology, all those sorts of things, philosophy. It's just church administration, all those sorts of things, everything that you need to be a well-equipped pastor, or just any position really. If you're going to just be a missionary, if you're going to just work as a administrator, strictly administrator in a church or a religious organization or whatever, whether it be Protestant or Catholic, that's what the Master's of Divinity prepares you for. So, but the thing was, the thing was, and I actually had a professor, right? Well, I still do, who was a huge Trekkie, and he's old school. He loved the TOS, and he would wear his Captain Kirk ties. He would wear his Spock ties. He would wear the ties that have all three. He would have the Trinity, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. He would. We actually, me and my wife and him and his wife, we actually had the opportunity to go to a special showing of Star Trek II Wrath of Khan back last year, and we got to. There was a Q&A with William Shatner afterwards, and we got to get our picture taken with him. So, and it was. It was a lot of fun because I had never seen Wrath of Khan on big screen. I had seen it. We have a good sized TV, and I've seen it on VHS and DVD in the past. But this was my first time to see it on the big screen. I'm like, whoa! And I mean, I'm kind of like you, Jack. I mean, obviously, George, you've got several years on me.
Either way.
Yeah.
Jack or George. Yeah, I'm about 46 years old.
That's it?
Yeah, I'll be 47. I'll be 47 in May. But
I'll be 42. I'll be 42 in September.
Yeah.
So I'm not that far off from you, really.
Yeah, not really. But I mean, growing up, my parents were really poor.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now Dad jokes that he came into money when we all left the house, but he started his own business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's pretty well off. And but I wouldn't have the work ethic I do if it wasn't for that. If I didn't grow up that way,
mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the problems we have in our society now is that nobody has that ethic. Nobody had to struggle. A lot of the people are just given things now, and I made that mistake with my kid. I wanted better for him, and things seem to be that way. Of course, I only got to see him 4 days a month, so it kind of tied my hands. But I mean, where we come from, our perspectives are, that's why I try to be open-minded when people are arguing with me, is because I have to realize. And that goes back to how I write too, because I try to understand psychology, so I know how to write a character. Is that I realize, it's not that they're wrong; it's that my perspective is totally different than theirs, and I have to take that into
Forgive
account.
me for a sec. I have to do something before starting the interview, so I'm just going to step out and.
Sure.
Okay.
Ambassador, I'll see you guys on later tonight when you start.
Okay. See you then, PJ.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye,
PJ.
guys.
This
Thanks,
is
Jack.
awesome. I really appreciate
Bye, Tommy.
it. So yeah, I mean, I just, writing has been the thing I wanted to be since I could remember. My father bought me a typewriter when I was 8 or 10 years old, and I
Mhm.
wrote my first story. And you know, it was just an old school typewriter, and
One of the
you
real
know,
old school ones that chinged when you brought the arm back.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
I love
You
those.
had to buy the actual whiteout stuff to make corrections.
Yes.
Uh, where you had to know how to spell. You really
Mhm.
had to know how to spell.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Well, and go ahead, George.
and so I never, until I was a teenager, I'd never even seen my father read anything.
Hmm.
The reader in my family was my mother, and everybody always gave her crap because she was reading uh, romance novels. But that was the example I had. So
Hmm.
it really set with me that my father, who was a man's man, he works with his hands. My brothers are the same. My younger brothers are exactly like him. They prefer working with their hands. It's not to say that they're not intelligent. My dad could build anything. I once watched him get a piece of sheet metal and a welding torch and make a lawnmower out of parts
Hmm.
that he pulled behind a tractor. So but and he's like, you know, you're always reading, what's wrong with you? But that man gave me a typewriter. When I was older, he got me my first computer. It was a 380, or actually go back. In 1981, William Shatner did a promotional commercial for
Hmm.
Commodore VIC 20.
I think
My
I
dad
heard
went
about
out
that.
My dad went out and bought one. He didn't have any money. He used his entire paycheck and bought us that computer.
Hmm.
And so looking back on my childhood, he's encouraged me every step of the way without me even realizing it.
Yeah.
And you have to have that in your life.
Well, and my childhood was not a bad one. I will say this.
Right.
I had a few bad things happen in my childhood, but honestly, they were events that very much formed my mentality. They molded me in the way I think and how I interact with people because we didn't grow up poor by any stretch or anything. Unfortunately, when I was 7, my father passed away because of heart failure.
No, I'm
I think
sorry.
well, this was back in '84.
Right.
I appreciate the sentiment, George. But the things that he taught me in the years that I can remember, and just from his example, because he was sick for a lot of years because of his heart condition.
Right.
He did have a heart transplant. I think it was in '82, but unfortunately the anti-rejection drugs weren't as good as what they have now for people that have organ transplant, and he was fine. They were having a visit with the heart doctor who did the procedure and everything, or one of the other doctors that helped with it. And the doctor and my mother had just stepped away for a few minutes, but like 10 minutes or so, and they came back and he was um, laying on the bed and everything gone.
Yeah.
And for a lot of years, it was just me, my mother, and her mother, my maternal grandmother. And I think because she had, unfortunately, my grandfather had died a couple of years prior in 1980.
Right.
And the one thing that my father, from his example, because he could have given up and just quit and everything when they were trying to wait for a heart transplant, but he didn't. He kept fighting because he had a family that he wanted to get back to. He had a son, obviously, me, that he loved. He had a wife that he loved. And that was the one thing that he taught me by example, was to face life fearlessly and to love those around you equally as fearless.
Right.
And the other thing my father very much was a geek.
Yeah.
He loved sci-fi. He loved all this nerdy stuff that we talk about now. He was a band geek as well. He was a musician. He was a good one. Not professional or anything, but he was a very good natural musician. And between him, his example, and my mother encouraging me, she was like, what she taught me was, if you have a passion for something, if you have an enthusiasm for something, and you have the ability to pursue it, then do so. And that has something that's been very formative throughout my life. I mean, she taught me that her and my family have taught me that one of the most important things in life is family and those that you count as family. Because I'm an only child. I didn't have any siblings or brothers and sisters. My closest friends in elementary through high school were my siblings, in a matter of speaking. And we were all nerds too, or jocks or whatever. But I think what my generation had the opportunity to do that I don't think other generations realize, particularly the ones that have come up after us, is we were the first ones that really got into computers, figuring out what all that could be done with them, figuring out all the neat.
Ambassador.
Yeah, Tommy.
I'm just going to pause you there for a second, bro. I hope you don't mind. You're talking
No,
about
go ahead.
the first generation, coming up with computers. I remember when they first brought computers into my school when I was going through the formative years of middle school. And I was like in awe. I was in awe of those things when they brought them in, and they were these big, clunky, bubbly screen-looking things that you could. What you could do, you could do a few things where you could run a line over and over and over again, pretty much. That's what you learn how to do. Go to this line, then go to that line, and repeat this text. And that was about the end of it. But I mean, it was just so fascinating at the time. And you got these younger generations now, they got all this technology at their fingertips, and they don't even know how to use it properly. I mean, they're asking stupid questions or making stupid comments about something that they could easily find the answers for if they just looked.
I'm a tech, and when I got out of the military, my first job was as a support tech for Intuit QuickBooks. And to this day, I'll get a ticket in the middle of the night. My Outlook's not working well, or I can't type numbers into my spreadsheet, and I'm like, okay, can you check your numlock? I mean, people don't even bother anymore. It's like, why should I have to walk somebody to their? Is that me?
No, it's Tommy.
Oh, okay. Why as a 26-year-old person do you not know where the start button is on Windows? I just don't understand it. I don't understand. I know my son doesn't even have books anymore, or didn't in his last 2 years of high school. He had a computer they issued him. So I'm flabbergasted by the levels of, and it's because people don't care. They know what they use it for their specific use, and they don't care to know anything else about it. And I'm just not built that way. And I don't think our generation was built that way. I used to say all the time, our generation was a generation that was set to change the world, and we started playing video games.
Yeah. Well, and I grew up, the consoles that I knew and that I used readily when I was old enough to do so, when I had the means to get them, were the Sega Genesis. Was my first actual new console, because my uncle had given me his Atari 6, I think it was 6, the wood panel. Was that the 64?
Yeah, it was a 64, I think.
The
64.
Was the, Atari 6400. The
Nintendo
64 was the 64.
Yeah.
There was also an Atari 2600 too, if I'm not mistaken.
There was, but I don't think it was as advanced as the 6400.
Yeah, I think the only thing you could play on the 2600 was like Pog and Missile Command.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because you had the little knob that turned back and forth. So yeah, that makes sense. But when I got my Sega Genesis back in, it was 93 or so.
Yeah, it was right after I graduated high school.
I was in junior high. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I was in junior high, and then I eventually got a Super Nintendo when the price got knocked down on big time after the PS1 can't come out, And
Yeah.
I think the Nintendo 64 had just come out as well, because that was your first pure. No, wait a minute. No, the Nintendo 64 was still cartridge. It was the PS1 that was the first
Disc,
pure disc. Well, they eventually had the Sega CD, which attached on to the Sega Genesis.
Oh, hold on a second. Wasn't the Saturn first?
Yeah, the Saturn was first, but nobody bought
They had
it.
a
It might have
Sega, they had a Sega Saturn, and then they had a Sega CD. They had changed the name, and they changed the format of the way the system itself worked just a little bit. There was a slight change.
I think the Saturn and the PS1 were like the first generation of pure disc drive, whereas the Sega CD was you had to hook it onto its own. You had to hook it onto the Sega Genesis for it to work. Of course, you had the Sega Genesis 32X, which wasn't bad and everything, but it just didn't have a whole lot of catalog of games for it. Unfortunately, you had, I think, Star Wars Arcade, you had Doom, and I honestly think that was about it. I think they only did like 2, maybe 3 games for that.
Yeah.
But I eventually, my first real big upgrade in consoles was the original Xbox. The big brick X.
I still have that in my garage, Ambassador.
Oh man.
And I played KOTOR. I played KOTOR for hours upon hours upon hours.
Oh, you're not the only one. You know, I was so blown away with when they started doing games on disc, because that was around about the same time that they started doing DVDs, and you had the first DVD players coming out. I remember how expensive they were, and now you can get one for little nothing. I mean, the very first original DVD players, and some of them didn't really completely work the way they should have. They were like maybe $150 or $200 or more, and now you can get one for maybe $20 or $30, depending on what brand you get.
Ambassador, when they first came out, they were going for over $400.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
because I remember I had a friend of mine, and this was mid to late '80s when they first came out with the CD players.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had we all still had records. We all had 33 and 45 albums.
Mm-hmm.
And he went out and got a CD system, and it was like close to $500 for the damn system. It was insane how much it cost when they first come out.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, Jamal's in the green room here. We'll just bring him in.
Okay, I've never met Jamal, but it'll be nice to talk to somebody new.
Hey.
Oh, hello everybody.
Welcome.
Hey Jamal, good to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Hey, here, being everybody is familiar with me, I'll put my camera on for a few minutes. So, this is me, not quite as menacing as my avatar.
Right. I always thought Kosh was very manipulative behind the scenes. I'm like, what is he doing? What's he doing? I know he's doing something.
Well, my original avatar was Kosh. This new avatar, and I kind of like the design better, is Yulkesh, which was the second ambassador after Kosh was killed by the Shadows.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, when I was coming in, Jack, I heard you talking about Babylon 5. That's one of the reasons I started my channel, because I have noticed that there isn't a whole lot of other channels that do discuss it in any detail. And I just yesterday, finally, since October, finished my character discussions from B5, because I covered all the major characters. And yesterday I covered Lanier, I covered Veer, and I covered Marcus Cole. Because I had already done all the other major characters. I had done Sheridan, I had done Kosh, I had talked about Garibaldi, Sinclair.
Garibaldi was my favorite character too.
Yeah, I have to say my favorite character of the main 3, whether it's Sinclair or Sheridan, is Ivanova.
Yeah,
she was. The thing that I
still follow her on Facebook, I think.
Well, and the other thing is, get to the point that I was about to make.
Yeah.
The thing I love about all of those characters is that Straczynski wrote them so incredibly well, and they were acted equally as well. They got competent, good actors to portray them, because they could have been so one beat and so boring. And honestly, the only character that was truly one beat was Morton. At least that's my opinion. Everything, because he pretty much was how he was from the first time we meet him to the last time, just before Londo has his head removed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Babylon 5 for me, it was one of those shows that when me and my mother would get home from work or anything on Saturday nights, we'd be like, let's get home. We got to get home, make sure we don't miss it. Because it ran syndication. It wasn't on a channel and everything. It ran on an NBC affiliate where we live and everything. So, but I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this channel, there's something I want to talk about, and that's Babylon 5. Right. And that's why I initially started calling myself a Master Caution. That I started getting, my channel started growing, and I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble with Warner Bros., so I'm going to change my name.
Which is exactly why I misspelled George. Now,
I still use the same avatar, but I don't think, as long as I change it like 50%, they're going to care. So,
and I don't think, and Warner Brothers isn't as bad as, say, CBS or Disney. So
yeah, that's true.
You know, it's when you start taking off and you start getting monetized that you're going to start seeing that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did a kind of a tribute video to some of my favorite YouTubers that kind of got me going and mm-hmm. thinking I could do this. And I had Doomcock singing Frank Sinatra on there because he was on Karaoke one night. Mm-hmm. And first copyright strike, man. Boom, right there. Yeah. Not even 5 minutes after it was on. And I was like, what do? I don't know what this does. Does it affect my views? And everybody's like, don't worry about it. You're not monetized. It's not going to hurt you. But I'm like, you know, it's just trying to tiptoe through, and nobody really knows. You know, we haven't seen any blowback from the settlement that YouTube had to make and mm-hmm. changes they had to make for the COPPA yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying to be careful about what I say and what I do.
Well, and here's the thing. I went through all of their stuff. I read through everything. I watched the video that they put out and all. And I read through what they had on the studio, and they actually give you the opportunity to brand your channel. And they say, is this channel for children? And you can say, yes, there is content for children, or no, there isn't. And I've made it fairly clear in every one of my videos or anything. My content's not for children, even though there's nothing mature about it per se. I mean, except for maybe the occasional swear word. Other than that.
Well, I think what the problem is, everybody was getting worried about with this whole COPPA thing is mm-hmm. the direction of what they were saying. They were saying that at one point they were saying if your videos could be how was the wording that they used? It wasn't determined, but it just said it could be classified as possibly being friendly to children. That was mm-hmm. the type of wording that they used that got a lot of people scared. And
and justifiably so.
Oh yeah, and if everybody was worried about it, and for everybody that was worried about it, instead of sitting there on the fence bitching and crying and moaning, they should have did something. Because the first thing I did, because you know what, when those kind of rules come out, I never trust the government by themselves properly take care of things. So I'm going to speak my 2 pennies worth, if you will. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did is I wrote a letter to the FTC, and I complained about the way that they had it worded in the. For more clarification of what they deem as kid friendly and, child friendly.
Yeah.
And there really needed to be some kind of distinct guidelines for people to follow. Because how do you know that you're in violation if you don't even understand what the rules are? You can't play the game unless you know the rules.
Precisely.
Well, and that's the thing about that I don't understand about these platforms is that they'll say you violated the rules, and I'm like, where do you have the rules posted? I mean,
precisely.
You're making them up as you go, and they're not.
It's that never-ending goalpost, the moving goalpost, man. When everybody reaches that goal line, hey, we're going to need to move this thing a little bit to make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Let me introduce my wife. This is Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Candace, greetings.
Okay.
Greetings.
like how you appeared. Looked like you
I don't
stepped
think
through a
they can
portal
hear
or
me.
Oh,
something.
you don't think they can hear me?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I can't switch the mic because the other mic is way too sensitive. The one on the computer is way too sensitive.
And I can't hear anybody else now that I'm in the room.
I'm sorry. Let me see. If I can-
You ought to get
well,
one of
and
those headphone splitters they have.
Yeah. Well, this is Bluetooth. I'm
Oh,
working off a
wow.
laptop. I'm waiting, getting my a new desktop in a couple of weeks, one that's going to be powerful enough to actually do the videos properly, and a new webcam that's actually 1080p instead of 720.
Yeah.
So it's a gaming laptop, but I bought it in 2014, so
Yeah.
it's about 3 generations behind now.
Yeah.
So fortunately, my wife is gracious enough to let me spend that kind of money and get something decent.
Well, honestly, I'm just working off a Hewlett Packard and everything laptop, and I have a good webcam, and I'm happy. I've got some decent editing software and everything. Honestly, right now, I don't have time to sit down and do videos like I did previously. Holy crap, Drew! I missed you,
Drew.
man. I've missed you.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I don't mean
gents?
to take
Sup,
over
Drew?
the conversation if you guys have other things to talk about.
No, we're just.
She gets on to me
Not-
all the time. I tend to just go and go and go.
I hope this doesn't trigger anyone. We're just kind of BSing here.
Yeah.
Oh no,
From a-
I'm sorry,
from a certain-
guys.
From a certain channel.
I meant to stop by anyway because I wanted to
Oh.
support. I wanted to support Jack and you know, I mean, Jack's awesome, and I'm glad to be his buddy. And it's
Yep.
great to see Tommy because Tommy has been behind the scenes checking up on me and my mom, and I appreciate Tommy all the time. And Ambassador, it's good to see you too.
Good to see you, man.
But
Ryan just said hello to you.
oh, hello.
I said hi to him first.
Oh, you did?
So you're right there. It says, "Sup, Ryan?"
Oh, okay. I can't multitask.
Yeah, for some
This is
reason
why-
I can't find this. I can't find this stream on YouTube. Is it not? I know we're live, but are we live on
It's-
YouTube?
Yeah, it's on there. It's
It's under StoryMan-Jack.
StoryMan-Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on Orville Nation. My bad.
don't
Okay.
know why.
No, he wanted to do it on my channel because
Okay.
you know he's
okay.
got that big time actor, and I was going to tell him before
Yeah.
he left.
Yeah,
I was
we're
just going
okay.
through his channel, and
Okay.
I'm amazed at the actors that he has that are. Jonathan
Oh.
Franks gave him a shout out.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah. Okay.
that's amazing.
But
You know,
here's why
There you
here's
are.
why I was late, guys. I got into a little bit of a Twitter debate with the Star Trek Discovery fan, and I pointed out to this gentleman, you know, the origins of where his show that he blindly supports started. And I linked him the articles to our stories on Nasab Dean and the blatant plagiarism that CBS pulled and everything. And and he proceeded to tell me that bounding into comics was clickbait trash. And I retweeted that tweet, by the way. It's on,
well,
it's on my
y'all's website
timeline.
is just the opposite of clickbait trash, to be honest.
So
no, if I was going to categorize a website as clickbait trash, it would be the Mary Sue.
Yeah,
it would
I was
also
gonna say
be
the same thing.
it would also be Kotaku, but yes,
Or perhaps
besides,
Vice.
yeah.
Sorry,
But
go ahead, Drew.
besides that, feel free to if you find that tweet on my timeline, you know, feel free to educate the gentleman about what bounding into comics does for the community. Absolutely.
Because y'all do good stuff. You really do. I've read some of the articles. I can't recall them off the top of my head, but I have honestly read some of y'all's stuff, and it is good. It is quality.
Yeah. I mean, that's you know, I am not a voice actor, so I realize that sometimes on my story videos they're kind of hard to get through. I did want to point out that I have a really short story. It is a Star Wars story, and it is technically fan fiction, but what I created it in order to show how they could have used brand new characters in the same universe without messing with anything. So this story takes place at the exact same time as Luke's story, except it starts on Alderaan, right?
Mhm.
And the character's parents were they live on a farm. They have no weapons because Alderaan is free of weapons, and that's why they went there. And basically, the hand of the Emperor finds them. It's a different hand of the Emperor because Mara Jade thought she was the only one, but she wasn't.
No, there were several. Yeah.
And so he finds them. The boy escapes. His father sends him with a box, Duracell box, to find an old hermit that lives in the old ruins that were the Killikori caves, which is the insect race that have inhabited Alderaan before humans. And he's a drunk, but he used to be a Jedi, but he's a drunk. So you can create these things without ruining what came before.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell the stories in the same universe. And I don't understand why they have to remake everything. I don't understand why they have to change everything.
It's because it's simple, because they have no creativity anymore. They really don't.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, and here's something, and these are things that I've just recently become aware of. I mean, like with the Dega Outlaw and the stuff that he has done for his channel and the book that he has written, I'm going to get a copy somewhere along the way. He's an independent. He's one little guy who's written a book and is doing several series on his channel. His stuff's good.
Yeah.
If you look at what Seth MacFarlane has done with the Orville, his stuff is good. If you look at Axanar and Axanar Comics, which is an offshoot of Axanar,
right?
Again, there's another guy that I actually came across through Axanar, and that's Grant Major with No Budget Productions, and he does a lot of.
I love that channel. I've been watching.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
He has done a lot of good fan films, and I just recently connected with him on Facebook, and there are people out there that have imagination, have vision, have that imaginative spark, but the problem is Hollywood and these studios don't seem to want to give anybody the time of day because they're afraid of taking risks. Now, here's the thing, and this is just my perspective. And if y'all
just
disagree,
real quick, I want to shout out. Hey,
Sure.
Ryan, I appreciate you being in the chat. If you want to pop in, I think we have room. If you have time, I know you're getting ready.
Yeah, you got room for one more.
For your book review, which I'm gonna, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna jump over there. Which is why I'm wearing the Ron and Kendall shirt. Yeah.
Suck up.
Yeah. I'm watching my Geeks and Gamers hat, you know.
Yeah,
so.
he coordinates his stuff at the right time, man.
Yeah, he does.
But you know what? Big shout out to Ryan though, because me and Ryan and Jack, we're all in the Fandom Menace Guild over on Star Wars: The Old Republic. So if anybody out there does any gaming, just get in touch with us. You can join the guild and join in the fun with us over on the game, because we're having a blast with
much, I would consider it.
Yeah, we're having a blast with it so far. So,
no, I'm saying, Drew, if it didn't cost so blame much, I would consider it, but I don't feel like
it's free to play.
Is it free to play now? I thought you still had to pay to.
Well,
you can play. You can pay if you want a bunch of different characters and do a bunch of different things. But to just play through the story and get that experience of the story and have fun with everybody else. You don't have to pay. You can just create your
Oh.
character and go.
Yeah. You can
Okay.
actually, I believe that you could play up to level 50, which is the original storyline.
Okay.
After that, you have to have a subscription, I believe, to play the subsequent, expansions.
Okay. That I did not know. I really didn't, because I had heard originally that it was all you had to pay to play anything.
It was originally. Originally, it was just like World of Warcraft, and apparently
Yeah.
their subs started dwindling. And once their subs started dwindling, that's when they made it free to play. And then, obviously, after a while, World of Warcraft actually did the same thing. But instead of giving you up to like a level 50, which was the original vanilla World of Warcraft world, they only give you up to a level 20 because, well,
Right.
they're cheap. You know, Activision wants to make every dollar that they can.
So, yeah, I'll,
But yeah, the story on it is terrific.
That's
And
what I've heard.
Canon, or it was
Mhm.
it's EU canon.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
canon. So it's just it's so disappointing what's happened to it. It was my favorite thing in the whole world.
But well,
Yeah.
and you know what? I'm gonna let somebody else talk for a few minutes.
Oh no, I just gotta bounce over. I'm actually gonna jump over to Orville's channel and join in on the interview with
Yeah.
JT Hertzler. So I will catch you guys soon. So
And this stream kind of came about. I took the day off to do it because I didn't really. I know PJ was having some coordination issues.
yeah.
But because I took the day off, we went ahead and did it. And,
Well, thanks for having me, Jack.
oh, I appreciate
And-
it, Drew. You're the man.
And
Yeah.
Drew, if you're free tonight and everything, if you just want to bounce into the chat, I'm running the my stream this evening at 8:30. We're gonna be talking about Dune.
All right.
So
Well, Ambassador, thank you for continuing to keep my mom and I in your prayers. Love you and appreciate you. And Tommy,
we'll keep her in our prayers too, Drew.
yeah, thank you so much, Jack. Appreciate that.
You're
Tommy,
welcome.
I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, Drew.
Drew, you take care, bud.
Yep.
Hey, Jamal, you want to
Take care,
talk about
Jamal.
your channel for a while?
What's that?
Do you have a channel?
Well, I have one, but I haven't really done anything live with it yet. I just kind of started it less than a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started mine in October. Was it like October I started?
I think
Dang.
so.
And then
Thank
and then we took off like November and December because we did a lot of traveling and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, Nerdrotic, Ryan, Jeremy, and Jeremy is controversial, but he's really encouraging to people, and
Yeah.
they always like, just do it, just start it, just go. And so I did, and like I told her, I made a commitment. That was my one New Year's resolution that I've ever kept this long, where I'm going to put a video out at least once a day or a live stream, and I think, and I'm really active on Twitter with the people that I follow. And so that has become, I never expected to be at 78 subscribers since January. I was at 20. I think I was about 20 or 25 subscribers on January 20th when we picked back up and started again.
Yeah.
And I'm already at 78. So it's just growing exponentially.
Well, and just to give a little backstory on mine and everything, I started mine back in October as well, and because I had taken a semester off from my master's degree, and I was like, I'm going to put time into this. I'm going to start putting out videos. I started live streaming officially on my own in December because I did a Christmas holiday special stream where we talked about all of the old classic holiday Christmas specials, movies, and stuff like that. And I've been streaming ever since. Yesterday was the first time I did a special edition live stream for the Ambassador Wing, because that's what I call my streams. And I got my first big bump from Drunk 3PO when he would do his new content creator Sundays.
Right.
And then I've gotten a couple of more bumps here and there, and I'm at, I think, 193 or 194.
Right.
And I'm hoping maybe by the end of this month or so, I'll be at 200, maybe a little bit over. But the thing for the reason, like I said, the reason I started my channel is I have a passion for the topics I talk about. And also, is good experience for me and everything concerning the field of that I work in, that I have experience in. And it helps me work on communicating with other people and building rapport with other people. And the other thing is I want to put out to the world at large that the Christian community is not just made up of people who just sit and pray or go to church and read their Bible, and that's the long and short of it.
Yep.
There is such a thing as the Christian geek. I actually did a truck video on exactly that subject. I think it was like maybe like a 10 or 15-minute video where I asked the question, or I posed the question, can a Christian be a geek or vice versa? And the thing is, I think there's this misconception, it's not a negative misconception or a prejudiced one, that the Christian community is just made up of people that are very boorish, very stick in the mud, have no fun, have no creativity, have no imagination. That's not true. We all have passions outside of our faith.
Right.
But our faith kind of interplays with what we consume and how we interact with what we do consume. And that's part of the reason why I did start my channel.
Well, you know, the Judeo-Christian idea is the basis for a lot of the great stories that we love.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the good and the bad, the light and the dark, the doing the right thing is not always the easy thing.
No,
you know, and that's the point that, so I tell people all the time when they ask me why I'm so upset about what's happening with our myths, our modern myths, is that these are our Aesop's fables. These are our
Iliad.
Yeah, there are tales that teach us right from wrong, that put it in a more modern
context.
Yes, and we can, and that's why I mean, when I watch one of these movies, I immerse myself in it. I lost in it. I cry, I laugh, you know, she makes fun of me for crying all the time. My kid does even more. It's crazy, but it's in fun, right? I remember when I saw the very first trailer for The Phantom Menace, and I sat there and bawled because I'm like, it's back. You know, he's bringing it back, and then we got what we got, but it turned into, you know, you got through all that stuff and you got to the Revenge of the Sith, and you're like, this is how it happened. That's why people love that movie. That's one of the biggest reasons, is that, you know, he didn't intentionally go bad. He went bad because he was manipulated. And if you read the book is so much better. The book goes into much more. I mean, when you realize that Anakin Skywalker hadn't slept for a month, right? Yeah, and you're like, oh, well, that's why he gave in so easily. He was beat down. So these are things that the reason our passion is coming out, the reason we're so upset, is because they guided our lives. You know, it's our modern moral. It's Jesus had the what was the story called? It's on the
Parables?
tip. Yeah, there are parables, right? And that's what, I mean. I've been a Christian. I had to actually find my faith because my parents are agnostic, but I found my faith when I was in my early 20s, and I read the Quran. I read the Torah. I even read the Bible, the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Bible. And I went to different churches and I chose my religion. and not a lot of people have that perspective, because either you come into it later in life, or you came into it because you were raised in the faith. And I was baptized on February 14th, 2001, because my son was on the way, and I'd been going to church for a couple of years, and I'm like, it's time. But I don't want to get all religious, but that's our morals, and I see that fading away in our media, in our modern myths, and it's sad.
Well, and I'll just do it very brief. I grew up in the faith. My parents, my grandparents are all Christian, but I didn't come to faith in Christ until I was 31. So I can understand where you're coming from, coming late into the game. But the experience had such a profound effect on me that it has changed the course of my life and what I want to do with my life, aside from obviously this. So, yeah, I can completely understand what you're saying, George. Completely.
Yeah. And there's some great stories and great fiction produced in that Christian subgenre. Mm-hmm. And some of them are fantastic. There's two of the first novels I ever read that were Christian novels that got me hooked was Piercing the Darkness and This Present Darkness. And if you have a chance, look it up. And it's about people going about their daily lives, and the bad things that they do and the good things that they do. They have a demon on their shoulder, or they have it's visualized in those novels, and they're kind of dry at first. Mm-hmm. But that is an idea that I never really thought about. And it's just about, for me, part of it is those tales, pure fiction, pure fantasy novels, science fiction, science fantasy, thrillers, horror. It's all about me. To me, it's all about gaining that knowledge and that insight into how what people want to consume and what's going to get a point across. Because once you're done writing something and you give it out, you're no longer the interpreter of what you wrote. It belongs to those people, and those people, the fans of that, are what drive its success. And yes. I don't think that Hollywood, or in a lot of cases the publication industry, even understands that anymore.
No, because they're not so much interested in giving creators a voice. They're more. I won't say that this is entirely true. When they want to make a profit, but they aren't diversifying how they make that profit. They only want to stick what has been profitable in the past instead of giving.
They don't want to take a chance.
Precisely, they don't want to do what Alan Ladd and the people at Paramount, when they decided to do the TOS Star Trek movies, particularly Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, because I think most everybody knows this at this point. Star Trek the Motion Picture, it barely broke even. If not, it lost the studio some money. So
because the fan base was so small at the time. That
too. And I think the other problem was they tried to take too much inspiration from 2001, because it does have a similar tone, Star Trek the Motion Picture, to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And here's something I actually hit upon a couple of weeks ago on a stream that I had made, and it was somebody else had mentioned it as well. If Wrath of Khan had not done as well as it did, and not had struck as strongly as it had, we probably wouldn't have gotten any further Star Trek media, or it would have been a long time or anything before we would have gotten anything further. So the success of Wrath of Khan was a springboard for everything we've gotten since then, the good and the bad. Let's be honest here. So we wouldn't have gotten all the other movies. We wouldn't have gotten TNG. We wouldn't have gotten Deep Space Nine. We wouldn't have gotten Voyager. We wouldn't have gotten Enterprise.
I know.
None of that stuff, not to mention Star Trek or any science fiction property in general probably wouldn't have had much of a voice. And
Right.
I'm going to yield the floor for a minute and everything. I'm actually going to have to bounce here in a few minutes because I've
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, George, how you doing?
Greetings, everybody. Greetings.
George,
Thanks
good to
for
meet
coming
you,
on.
sir.
Good to meet you too.
I've actually seen you on. I've seen you on a couple other streams. I think it was. Were you on Axonars? Any of their streams?
No,
No, wait a minute.
I-
I'm thinking.
I was
ahead.
on Sci-Fi and Orville
That's it.
Nation.
Yeah, that was it. Sci-Fi and Orville Nation. That's where I've seen you at, and I've actually checked out a couple of your videos on your channel. I like your stuff, sir. Very much so.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
So, what's the topic of the day?
We're just talking what we love about our IPs, about
Mhm.
where we're going with our channels, and what we're passionate about. My take on everything, if you've looked at my channel, is I take everything from a writer's perspective, and I don't think that a lot of people talk about it from that perspective, especially things like what they're doing with our IPs. How somebody who wants to tell a good story looks at what they're doing to their stories, and how anybody that could call themselves a writer could be happy with what they're producing.
Oh, I see. Yes. It's I've noticed this in the last 10 years. It's been maybe a challenge if I say it correctly.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I think it all went downhill for writers in Hollywood. When I forgot the name of the book, there was a particular book that came out, and it said you got to do it this way. X number of pages at the beginning.
Yeah.
Set up your thing. X number of pages in. You're setting up your character. Then you're doing the Wanderer. Call to action. Then the Wanderer.
Yeah.
You pick up all your tools and your friends that they're going to help you persevere at the end. Then hit Act 3 at this particular page and all that stuff. And,
yeah, the hero's journey is more of a guideline than a rule book.
Well, of course it is, but
But they don't understand that.
Everyone in Hollywood took that book as a Bible, and of all the people in Hollywood, Stephen called bullshit on it.
Right.
He said, "What are you doing? Write a story.
Yeah.
Don't follow all these other people. If that was the case, then you'd have clone stories of everything, and it's ridiculous.
And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, Hollywood. The culture in Hollywood is Hollywood wants to be second. It never wants to be first.
Yeah.
Which is proven with the amount of quality or original films. If you look at it, if you really think about it, there's maybe 10 original films in a given year, while the rest, which dwarfs that number, are all just copy and paste films.
Yeah.
Just cheap knockoffs.
I want to tell you guys about something I saw on Netflix. We discovered it, and imagine a sequel to Ferris Bueller's Day Off set in a high school post-apocalyptic where only the kids survived. The principal is played by Matthew Broderick. They break the fourth wall just like Ferris Bueller. It's called Daybreak, and it's on Netflix. And it is the funniest show that I've seen in a long time. They make fun of everybody, literally everybody.
What's funny is I was trying to tell people about that. Like, at points, they almost make it seem like they're woke. And other points, you could definitely tell that they're actually poking fun at it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those shows that it kind of creeps up on you and nobody's heard about it. And I tried telling people about it, and people like, well, I don't know. I've never heard of it. Well, just because you never heard of it doesn't mean that maybe you shouldn't just I
think you found it.
Check it out. It's not like a whole franchise that has been ruined. This is something completely different and something new. So I don't know why people are hesitant to watch it.
And what was great is that he's playing You know, Matthew Broderick is playing the principal that would be the principal that he had in Ferris Bueller in this day and age. You know, it's crazy.
And they say some of the lines.
Oh, they capture part of the lines, some of the lines from Ferris Bueller. It's awesome. And I don't think it's going to get a second season, but I just fell in love with it right away.
You know, the crazy thing is, I actually just did earlier this past week. I did a video talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
You should watch it. You really should. And it's really fun.
I don't have Netflix. I usually, what I do, if there's a show on Netflix, if it's the original show that they've done, I'll wait till it comes out on Blu-ray and then I'll go get it, because I'm waiting. I am waiting for them to release Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Netflix, get off of your butt. Here's my money. Take my money.
Really
I want it.
I was really happy with it. It's a little different than the original, but the original wasn't what it was intended to be either. So they did the puppets right. They got the kind of the way they interact right. They did a really good job with it.
Oh, they actually, it's Jim Henson's son and daughter plus Frank Oz. I think the guy that had done the original conceptual art, Brian Froud or Froud. If somebody knows how to pronounce his name, let me know, because I'm not sure which way it is.
Yeah.
But they actually used a lot of the similar techniques that they did for the original movie to make that show, but they kind of blended the two. They blended puppetry and they blended CG, because they did. Somebody, I think it was another channel and everything, had told me, because they were on the stream with me. I forget who it is now. It might have been Stone Loki, or it might have been a Dega Outlaw. I can't remember who. Told me that they had done a pure CG mock-up and it looked like crap. And then Netflix was like, no, do the blend, do the 50-50 or whatever, do actual puppetry and do CGI. And it worked. And obviously it did work, and it's caught on. So like I said,
I love you.
Love you too.
We're probably going to stop around 5:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got stuff I got to get done this afternoon, and
ditto. I'm gonna have to.
I've got a book review on Ryan's channel. So, the Aeronauts was good. I like that too.
Aeronauts. Wasn't that a comic? The Aeronauts.
That was a movie, wasn't it?
I know there was a thing called Micronauts that was like it was a toy line, and it was like
Micronauts was actually a toy line that was created by Takara off the back of the G.I. Joe line that they had brought over to Japan, that were the 12-inch figures that they made into Henshin Cyborg. Now, during the time when they had the oil crisis, and there was a lot of problems with being able to make petroleum, they had actually shrank the figures down to the 3.5-inch figures, which became the Micronauts line, which eventually led into Microchange, which led into Diaclone, which led into Transformers. There you go.
Right.
Brief history.
Tommy, you know your stuff. I actually, the way I learned most of my stuff was off of that Netflix series, Toys That Made Us.
Yeah. George, I want to say I love your art. Every time you post some of your art, it's awesome. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, thanks a lot. The humdinger of all the art that I posted so far in the last few weeks is going to be released shortly. And when you see this particular illustration that I'm going to be posting, you're going to go, "Holy smokes!"
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's going to blow all your all your minds. Everything that you love about sci-fi is going to be in that poster. And when you look at it, you're going to go, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
And here, let me give you a little brief preview.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little animation bit here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so let me see if I can play it real time here.
Wow.
Oh, wait, give me a sec. It's just in the process of saving. I got it.
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me of an old TV show intro I watched when I was a kid.
Was that War of the Worlds, the 1990s version?
Yes, yes.
Bobby Dip.
I watched that too. That
George.
was awesome.
Yes, exactly that. George, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going after all those little blue, what do you call member berries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
when
pretty
the
awesome, George.
when the three-fingered hand comes up over the earth
Yeah,
and goes, I'm like,
it's pretty cool.
that. And there was another, and I'm eventually going to do a video or a live stream on this because this was another show that I absolutely loved in the 80s, and that was V.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh man, I am.
That's really good.
That was a really great miniseries that NBC did back in the day.
So I'll just do
What?
it real quick. I'll just scrub through it now. So it's supposed to do this.
That is really cool.
That is, George. That is excellent, man.
Yeah, but
Good job.
guys. I'm telling you right now. As soon as I release that particular illustration on Twitter, you're gonna go, holy
Goo goo.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
I geeked out so hard on this illustration. I think it's the best thing I've ever produced. It's graphically, it's illustrative. There's so much satire, in this. It's just I didn't even know I was going there, honestly, until I had the third illustration up, and then I started to realize, oh my God, I can't believe I'm subconsciously going to this.
Well, Stephen King says that stories and art and things like that are like fossils that you have to dig out of the ground, and you don't really know what you're going to get until you've got it uncovered. And I think that's a really good analogy for creativity in general.
Well, it was one of the Renaissance masters that said something. The sculpture is already there. I just have to chip away the excess pieces.
Michelangelo.
Was it? Yeah, I think it was Michelangelo. Yeah, and that's very true. You just have to. Kathia, that is awesome. I'm eventually going to. I want to get it on. I don't think it's on Blu-ray, but I know for a fact I can get both parts on DVD. I'm going to get them on DVD because that was a great series, and it is actually very relevant. They tried to do a reboot of it back in, I think, the early 2000s or something, and it just didn't catch on like the original did. But
it was a pretty good show too.
The limited run TV series that they did after the miniseries, the second miniseries finished. Yeah. It wasn't bad and everything, but unfortunately, it just didn't have the budget like the two miniseries did. Not to mention the one character. There were a lot of characters in that show that V that I loved, but the one was actually in the second part, the V the Final Battle, was Michael Ironside's character. I loved him.
Favorite actor. My mother's favorite actor was Michael Ironside. So every time I see him in something, I'm like, there he is. Michael Ironsides.
I think the last thing I saw him in was actually Starship Troopers.
He's been in a few TV spots since then.
Has he?
I think he had a guest spot on NCIS a couple of times.
Okay.
And things like that. But
I think the other character he played that I really liked. He had a pretty good career back in the 80s and everything in the 90s. Was General Katana from Highlander 2.
Yep.
Ooh.
Man,
that's another one I need to do.
One of the things that
Tommy, don't steal those from me. Just teasing.
One of the things that brought me into the original V was
done.
Art Singer because of Beastmaster.
Well, I'll go ahead and do it anyway, Tommy.
Well, it's funny, Ambassador. I did. You were talking about Ferris Bueller. I did that like 2 weeks ago.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh well.
It just kind of popped into my. You know what I just did? Now I get this one. I bet you forgot all about this one. And I actually thought this was good because they took it from the original TV show, and they actually included one of the original players from the TV show was Dragnet.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I saw it. I think I watched that video. That was a good job you did on that one.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
They brought back Harry Morgan because Harry Morgan was in
they brought Harry back. They brought back Harry Morgan because wasn't he the second partner?
He was like
the guy that played.
Yeah. He was the second partner. Yeah.
Yeah, because Jack Webb, the guy who played Jack Webb, was in both versions. but they switched out partners, and Harry Morgan was the second partner. I think he did that just after they had finished MASH, or maybe he did it concurrently. I can't remember which. But yeah, I remember seeing the Dragnet movie with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. The virgin Connie Swales, and then at the end and everything, Dan Aykroyd's character says Connie Swales, and Tom Hanks' character says, "Don't you mean the virgin Connie Swales?" And Dan Aykroyd's character just gives him a look. He's like, "Oh, well, you dog."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to end this pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm actually going to need to bounce too, but I just want to say, Jack, thank you for coming on. And Jack, if you want to join my stream tonight, if you know Dune, or even if you don't, or anything, I'll shoot you a link or whatever. And to everybody else, everything, thank you for being here.
Promises, because I need to check with her and see what she has going on.
I understand. That's
We
totally
don't get
fine.
that much time together because I work nights and she works days. So
Ooh, I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah. Well, either way. But I just want I thank PJ, if he hears this in the replay, I thank PJ for inviting me on.
Right.
I thank everybody here, everybody in the chat, Katie Star, Ryan Kennel, all of you. George, it was good to finally interact with you. Jamel, I'm sorry we didn't get to interact that much and everything, but hopefully you and I will cross paths again and everything.
Well,
if you have,
I'm gonna be starting out my live streaming again. I found it's been a while since I've been able to actually have proper access to my YouTube channel, and when I found out what the reason was, which was a very silly reason, I just deleted that element off of my account, and everything worked well.
well, good.
Good.
Well,
Jamal, I do a stream every Monday night with my wife.
Okay.
So if you want to come on to that, I do it. I think it's we're thinking 8 o'clock every Monday, called Monday Musings.
Okay.
So anybody's welcome if they want to come and join that.
Okay. Great. That sounds great.
Yeah, I know I didn't give you a chance to talk. I tend to ramble.
It's okay. I kind of got on here late anyway, so.
But yeah, everybody want to plug their channels real quick?
being I kind of came in late, I'll let the others go first, and then I'll do mine.
This is Tommy. You can find me at Tommy on YouTube and Ratty Rackinson on Twitter. I do lightsaber theory videos, and I do older movie talks from mostly the 70s and the 80s.
And it's great content. You guys should check it out and subscribe.
Absolutely.
Just on that note, I would just like to say thank you to all the people that have subscribed to my channel. And if it wasn't for some of my subscriptions, I would have never known that I had broke 300 subs.
Oh, nice.
I had no clue. I don't pay attention to it. I don't look at it at all. I'm just happy to make content and be able to interact with the people that come to the channel. So I don't sit there and look at the numbers all day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can find me, georgepetergatsis.com. There's in the contact section of my website, you'll find the Instagram channel, the YouTube channel, the Twitter. It's all there, even the BitChute channel.
Oh, cool. I got to look into that. I'm still trying to figure out how to make overlays and such.
The BitChute channel has all the videos that I had on YouTube, and they're all there. Plus many more.
Okay, Ambassador.
Well, I my channel. You can find me at the Ambassador, both on YouTube and on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Rogue5778. If you all want to contact me or DM me, I do respond to DMs. I do live stream. I do normal content. I do record videos. I cover primarily pop culture of the 80s and 90s. I do mix a little bit of other things in there with it. So I will be live streaming this evening at 8:30. We'll be covering the Dune universe. So for everybody that's watching or anything, be sure to tune in after PJ's interview with JG Hertz.
Is that Central Time?
Yes, I'm Central Time. It's 8:30 p.m. Central. Yeah.
As am I. So
So okay, but yeah, that's my channel. That's my thing. That's what I cover. That's my wheelhouse. That's what I love to. That's what I love to talk about. So.
And Jamal, we will get your channel going, and we will get you the ability, and we'll help you grow your channel and let you do what you want to do with your channel.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jamel, you've got a subscriber right here, bud.
Yeah, likewise. I think I already subscribed. I usually go to the YouTube side where I see the chat,
Yeah.
and then I just go. I right click on the name, and it says go to their channel.
Yeah, that's the quickest and easiest way. If the person's on stream, and then you can go to their chat. If they type something in, you can go directly to their channel and subscribe.
Okay, great.
And I'm going to keep this up, so you can send everybody over, tweet out the link and everything, and we will. I keep all my streams up. I don't think it really affects me right now, so. I do have the George B.D. Lucas channel, so what I eventually probably will move all of my live streams over to that channel after they're done, kind of like Nerdrotic does with Nerdrotic Live. But
What,
thank you guys for
did you say Nerdrotic? That amateur? Gosh.
Yeah, Gary grew so fast that I think he's having trouble keeping up with things sometimes when his chat and stuff. But I give him a lot of slack because that guy knows his stuff, especially when it comes to, the old school comics and things like that. Plus, he's Doomcock's compadre, and I got love for Doomcock.
Okay. Well, everybody, I will see you all later. Thanks again, George, for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
So,
All right, take care.
Talk to you all later.
Take care, y'all.
Take care.
Are endings always this awkward?
Let's freeze frame.
Just end, right?